Today I'm going to be sharing my Q1 2025 portfolio update, basically to see how all of my investments are doing. I of course have seen that the US ain't doing so well in terms of the stock market, and I do hold a lot of my portfolio on US equity. So I'm interested to see what that has done to my value as of this point, and let's dive straight in. So first of all, we will discuss Vanguard. My Vanguard portfolio is currently being valued at £23,900. So basically over the past 3 months, I have not invested anything into this. So let's just see what that has done to the value. And it's gone down by about £1,500, which, to be honest, hearing how bad things have been recently, I'm not too surprised. But what this cannot do is it cannot erase all of the gains that I've had in the past. And so to be honest, I don't really mind too much that it has gone down, and it's important to note that it's an unrealized change anyway, because I am not intending to cash out my stocks and shares ISA right now. If I did want that money, I'd be a little bit dismayed because I could have just cashed it out like at the end of last year and it would have been valued quite a bit higher. At its height, this portfolio was over £25,000 and obviously now it's worth less. It's quite interesting to look at the month by month change on this fund. So here we go. In January, we actually went up a very small amount. So we started losing generally in February, and then in March, it kind of doubled up. So you can see then the cumulative total based on February and March's losses. And then the final thing for us to discuss is essentially like the change based on the various different funds that I am invested in. So I have, as I said, quite a bit of US equity, and unsurprisingly, this is where the biggest loss has taken place, where that has gone down over the past 3 months by £820. Then we have the FTSE Global All Cap Index Fund accumulation, which is more of a global. However, that does still have a very significant proportion from the US stock market, and hence that has also lost, albeit at a reduced rate, £336. And then my ESG Developed World, which a lot of people have recommended that I get rid of, has gone down by £92. And then Life Strategy, similarly something that people recommend that I don't do because we have some bonds as well as equity, but that has gone down by £189. However, I do want to just circle back and say, from the inception of this account up to now, you can't just take a small duration of time when you're looking at things like this. It's a long-term investment. Whenever you invest, you know that your capital is at risk, but the way that you try to offset that risk is by investing for the long term. So if we take this longer term view from October of 2021, when I opened my Vanguard account, up until that same date of the 26th of March 2025, we can see that I've invested a little bit over £21,000, but I have actually made on top of that just shy of £2,900. So I'm still very pleased with that. And especially because, where else would I have put this money to give me passive income, which essentially is what this is. And it's a wealth building tool that I intend to utilize in order to grant me financial freedom in the long run. The next thing for me to discuss after that big portfolio is out of the way is my InvestEngine portfolio. Now this is a little bit different. I haven't had this for 3 months, so I'm only, I suppose, looking at it from the time that I got the account, which was I think sometime in February. Now I've been quite intrigued by InvestEngine as a platform. I think they are super awesome if I'm being honest, and they have fewer fees than Vanguard. There's no platform fees or things like that, although ETF fees do still apply. I created an account and I popped £100 into an all-world, globally diversified index fund on there. I think this would be super cool if anybody wanted to follow along and start their investment journey. Feel free to do something similar. However, obviously you need to know your capital is always at risk when investing, and you need to do what you want, because this is not financial advice. This is purely for educational purposes. The value is £125. Now, the money that I have personally contributed being £100, the bonus being 29. As we might expect, March wasn't a good month for the stock market, and hence the value is a little bit less than what was in total contributed to this account. But technically, with that welcome bonus, I have a 25% gain on this portfolio. So while that's obviously small change in the scheme of things, I think that's really cool and a nice little boost, and useful psychologically, because I do not feel like I've, put in £100 and immediately lost a sum of money. Let's move on now to Trading 212, which is another platform where I have a stocks and shares ISA. But this one is a little bit different because I'm holding my money in qualifying money market funds, essentially their option to get interest on your cash. Now, it's important to know that while this is technically invested and therefore it is not zero risk as you might expect with other cash interest accounts, it is still pretty low risk, and I personally am comfortable with having my emergency fund in this account. Trading 212 are giving a set amount of interest on this account, so therefore my money has gone up in this one, and I've been getting 65p daily. So we'll do a rough calculation to say over the 90 days of this sort of status update, I've been getting that, which comes to £58.50. So another small increase for that portfolio. Now, this brings my stocks and shares March 2025 total fund, I suppose the amalgamated portfolio value, up to £36,750. I think that's really good. I mean, I don't follow these numbers super closely, but it is nice to check in now and again. And it always makes me think, oh, what if I could just put a little bit more in? Now, the 3-month change on this, which of course has gone down in total, is minus £1,362.50 of unrealised losses. Now, I don't really care too much about this, especially considering what we previously discussed of the lifetime change and the fact that it still made me like a good amount of money over the lifetime of that account. Let's add in a bonus account. This isn't a stocks and shares ISA, but it is a lifetime ISA that I hold with Doddle. And I thought, why not include this? That's valued at £7,485. And I also have pensions, which are basically combined worth around £20,000. So my grand total of wealth that I have invested in the stock market, £64,000. I reckon that even just for my own purposes, because the stocks and shares ISAs are really easy to navigate and you can easily define what time period you want to check. But for other things such as my lifetime ISA and my pensions, I can't actually find an easy way of doing that. So I think just having this as a tracker of the total amount will be super useful as I go along. And obviously with me not investing at all right now, it may well encourage me to do even small amounts here and there, because I think psychologically it helps me to know that it's going up and to know that I have something put away towards my future. But yeah, thanks very much for listening to my Q1 2025 portfolio update. If you have any questions or suggestions for these videos going forward, then please do write them in the comments below. Let me know. I'm super grateful for any interactions that I get on this platform. So thanks again. Hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one.